take you home.
Hello and welcome to the Help My Unbelief podcast, the #1 Christian podcast designed for the unbeliever. What you
How
doing?
you doing, man?
You caught me on
I
it,
was
huh?
focused on it.
This time I was gonna say, "What you doing?" That's a good one.
Chewing a mint.
Yeah, last week it kind of.
That sounds weird.
Last week, I was chewing gum. Drew was chewing.
You look
mints,
like a horse
and then you was
or a
chewing.
cow.
mint.
You honestly look like a cow chewing your cud.
No, I don't. What is cud?
It's what they regurgitate from their stomach and re-chew their grasses.
I do that sometimes. Seriously. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
I have GERD. I get bored and I
they
just
have 4 stomachs. So when they're chewing their cud, they eat, and then they rest. They kick it back up and re-chew it to refine it, make it finer, and then it goes into the other stomach. I don't know how God did that. I just know that he did it.
Yeah.
I do know that the biology tells you they have 4 stomachs. And the cows sit around and sit there and chew on their cud. Yeah.
Don't they have multiple hearts too?
No.
Well, something has multiple hearts, doesn't it?
No.
Hold on, I'm gonna Google
There's
that, dude.
not a critter that I know of that has more than 1 heart.
I don't know, dude. I'm gonna Google this because I think you're wrong about that.
Okay.
Let's see. What animal
I'm not always right. You can ask my children. They'll tell
has
you.
multiple hearts? What animal has multiple hearts? Octopuses.
Octopus actually has more than 1 heart.
It says, you surely know that humans and giraffes have just 1 heart, as most animals do, but not all. Octopuses and squids, animals called cephalopods, have 3 hearts. 2 hearts pump blood to the gills to take up oxygen, and the other pumps blood around the body.
That is just proof that God is incredible in his design and thought process.
Really? Yeah, I can see that. So, Darcia got you this visor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They offered her a hat or a visor at work, and she said, I'll take the visor.
I didn't know you work at Sprouts.
How did you not know that?
What do you mean, how did I not know that?
Said it at the same time.
4,000 times we talked about her working at Sprouts.
Really?
She only works part-time.
Yeah. Kind of, sort of.
Have you always worked there? Didn't you? Hold on a second.
Ever since you've known her.
But hold on. I could have swore. Let me say this.
You don't swear.
So whenever I first came to church here,
Yes.
I remember eating at a restaurant, and I thought I was like, I think that lady goes to my church. And it was at a restaurant, a hamburger restaurant.
No.
And I could have swore it was you.
No
It
way.
was like a hamburger restaurant up in the city.
No way.
So it wasn't you for sure?
No way.
Okay, well, I got it
That
wrong.
woman would not work in a fast food or a restaurant of any sort. The thought of cooking that much food and being over the steam and the heat and all that, no. I'll tell you, that woman couldn't handle it.
Okay. Well, I've thought that this whole time. That's why I guess I thought you worked there, because I was like, I'm pretty sure, because I remember I was like, I think that lady goes to church with me, and then as I'm going on throughout the year, I was like, I think that was Darcia. Now that I know her, but apparently I need to go back and see if you have a twin or.
No, she does not have a twin. There is only one.
Why'd you do it like that? Why'd you say it like that? Why'd you get? Yeah, she wants to know now too, and I think you owe her an answer. To be honest with you,
because there is only one.
But why are you saying that?
Only one.
Are you saying she's crazy? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Do you hear that? He's insinuating you're crazy.
Don't let him slide that, baby.
No, I'm not letting you slide, baby.
No. God made her completely unique.
Right. Just like all of us.
To the point that there could only be one.
But why are you saying
Because
that? You're dancing around this, man.
Because there is such a special relationship between her and God that it just amazes me. I mean, it literally amazes me.
You're dancing around this.
No, I'm not.
You're being very vague.
No.
Very vague. I want to know in detail why you said that. And
because
your eyes
she
were
is
so
unique
big.
in the Lord. She is unique in her style. She is unique. There is nothing about that woman that is ordinary.
Yeah.
At all.
I believe you.
Even her shoe size is weird.
What? What is
yeah,
your shoe
she
size?
wears like a 5 3/4.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes.
That's crazy.
He didn't catch that, did he? Yes.
5 3/4.
No kidding. Yes.
He's kidding.
Oh, you are kidding?
They don't make 5 3/4, dude.
Well, that's what I thought, but I don't know.
He
I don't
was
know.
looking up. Do they make 5 3/4? No,
No.
man. She wears a size 6.
I got to thinking because I gave those pictures of us to Chelsea last week, and I was going to check and see if she had uploaded them to the website because I wanted to talk
I need
about
to
it.
reach out and talk to her.
To Chelsea?
Mhm.
About what?
Why not?
Oh, I mean, okay. Yeah. Heck yeah. I guarantee she's listening to this, next week or whatever. So, but I wanted to
Hi,
look at
Chelsea.
the website. Hi, Chelsea.
I've been praying for you,
Chelsea.
girl.
Yep, we all have. So, yeah, I just wanted to see if those pictures were uploaded yet. So everybody could see, the people that listen could go onto the website and see what we look like and stuff like that. Just a forewarning, I'm super handsome and Larry's not. Yeah, essentially.
Dude, I'm 60 years old. I already know I'm not.
I know I'm not handsome either. I'm just joking. I have to tell myself
I'm
that
not
I'm-
rich. I'm not handsome. I don't have a great job.
That doesn't sound like you're being very thankful right now.
Apparently, I got a pretty good sense of humor because I won her somehow, and I don't know how I managed to rate
Yeah,
that for this.
I kind
I'm
of.
definitely dating up.
I'm gonna have to
or
interview
married
her.
up.
I'm gonna have to interview her someday on that too. It is kind of shocking.
Well, I know.
I got to interview her.
I
on
still
that.
remember my first sight of her. The very first time I saw her across the,
What'd you say?
the room.
What'd you say in your head when you saw her? What'd you say?
I can't verbalize that. I don't
You
talk
can't
that
say-
way. I don't talk that way anymore.
You can't say that way. You can't say that on a children's podcast. This isn't a children's podcast, but it's rated for everyone.
No, I was in an establishment I no longer visit.
Yeah. Okay.
hmm
There you go.
But my first words to her, we actually found this patch at one of the biker rallies. They have patches,
Yeah.
like that thing on your hat. But it said the exact thing I asked her.
What'd you ask her?
Hi, is your name Barbie?
Why? Why'd you say that?
For me to be able to walk up and talk to her, I knew somebody that looked similar to her
Uh huh.
in high school,
Yeah.
and her name was Barbie.
But you knew it wasn't her.
No.
You knew it wasn't Barbie, but you went up and talked. So you wanted an excuse to go talk to her, essentially.
The minute I got close enough to focus on her face, I knew it wasn't Barbie.
But you're like, I'm going with it anyway.
I did anyway. I had to get to talk to her.
Yeah. Nice. So let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question.
No, I'm really shy.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I'm really bashful. I'm shy and unsure of myself.
Now I know we have to live with. Now I'm going to take us to a more serious place. But I want to ask you this: if you could go back in time, because I know we're all about regrets and everything happens the way they're supposed to, but I know that everybody has one. If you could go back in time and do one thing over, what would you pick?
Never walking away from God.
Ever? Yeah. Like
mean,
you would have been
that-
straight through?
That's the biggest regret I got.
Yeah. It seems like Pastor Gary, it seems like he's the type that once he made that commitment to God, he never stopped.
Right.
Like he never walked away from him. Because you see, like if you think about it, probably more often than not, like probably wouldn't you even say like maybe 9 out of 10 people walk away from God at some point, or at least walk away from serving him?
Well, I don't know statistics, but I think that that's a pretty close assumption.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
like
imagine
Pastor
it's
Kevin and Pastor Martha never did.
never walked away from
No.
God either. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and everything about their meeting, their relationship, the way they were raised, everything never deviated.
Yeah.
which is simply amazing to me. I mean,
I
grew
don't.
up in the church. I grew up with a dad that was a Sunday school superintendent and a mom that was a stay-at-home mom.
But still, everyone I knew had walked away from God at some point. Even then, so you're examples of people like where Pastor Martha and Pastor, maybe not, I don't know about Pastor Kevin, but he taught. Wasn't Pastor Kevin's dad a preacher?
No,
as well.
he was a farmer.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Yeah, big farmer.
But I don't know. I guess
yet 2 of his sons are pastors.
Oh, really?
And is it 2 or going to be 3 of his
grandsons?
Of that particular farmer, his grandsons are going to be pastors as well.
I think it's important that some people, because if all Christians just serve God the whole time, then those people that do to make the choice to walk away would probably stay walked away because they think that they couldn't come back or whatever. So it's good to have that
if you ever had a
testimony.
conversation with Kevin or Martha, they're not a holier than thou, I've never walked
Exactly.
away from God type people.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, get that vibe from them.
Yeah.
I get that vibe from them where they're not like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I find them real, warm, welcoming. Gary is, man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I love that guy.
Yep.
I mean, and Paula, love her. I mean, because we're on Team El Reno, we've been out in El Reno, and we have had the opportunity, which don't normally happen. I mean, Gary teaches here on Wednesday, and Gary's pastoring up there on Sunday morning. I've never had the opportunity to find out the knowledge and the direction that Pastor Paula has, which is Gary's wife.
Well, she has 40 years experience too.
She is unbelievable as a teacher. I mean, I'm learning a whole lot of
she's
in-depth.
She's like
in the
book
Sunday
smart.
school class.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
she's
but
like
I mean,
book
she's
smart.
doing the Sunday school class.
Yeah.
And her lessons are like boom, spot on and amazing.
Yeah, she's like she knows all the in-depth details and knowledge of stuff, and she's very
has an
studied
eye for that detail. Yeah,
she's very studied too, which is a little different than Pastor Gary, but I mean not a whole lot either. I mean he's learned a lot from her, I'm sure, as well, and how to do that. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool getting to watch Pastor Gary talk about that too, because it shows me like that I don't feel alone. Because you can ask her sometimes, whenever I'm in one of my moments and stuff like that, I tell her I just feel alone. I feel like nobody understands what I'm going through. Like I feel like people are like, well, just do this and do that, and it's gone. And I'm like, it's not that easy. And I feel alone. And whenever I hear him talk, and which I'm not putting myself on the same level as him, that's why whenever people like say, well, you're a pastor or a preacher or something like that, I'm like, man, I don't feel comfortable giving myself the same title that those guys have, where they've been doing it for 40 years and stuff like that. Not that I wouldn't love if God gave me that title, but I just don't feel like I've earned it. And maybe I guess you don't, and it's given to you anyway. But regardless, when I hear him talk about the stuff he goes through and that burden and stuff that he feels, I don't feel so alone anymore, because I know. And then when I hear Pastor Kevin talk about it too, like how he almost gets sick before he goes on stage and stuff like that, it's a tremendous burden that he goes through every week. Like it's a tall task to do these.
The amazing thing is, because of, man, I don't want to go there. I have had the opportunity to visualize what you're hearing about, and it is amazing that against those odds, and even though he's walking in the will of the Father and he's doing God's bidding, he still has to overcome his flesh in a manner that I wouldn't have thought about. We had to overcome our flesh daily through, the jealousies and the normal stuff that we go through in life. We battled that part of our flesh, the desire to go do something that's not proper, okay, or however you want to do that. But yet a minister that has to step up in front of the congregation and give the strength that he has to pour out into the congregation and the conviction that he has to pour out in the congregation. He still has to battle his flesh too. But I never thought about it being a battle in that form.
Yeah.
In that way.
Everything that
Like-
you have to battle, but more. Does that make sense? Like, there's
Yeah.
an added element to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like,
It's crazy.
when you first asked me to do this, you were concerned I would be, nervous about doing this because I didn't have any experience at it. And I'm real good at ignoring what's going on because I'm not looking out at a crowd, right?
Yeah.
I don't have those in front of me. And I've had the opportunity to speak at the men's conferences and men's classes, and I've done presentations in sales. So, I've had that small type audience, and I
Yeah,
do
you were
have that
never
kind
nervous.
of comfortable in that format. But like Drew blew me away. I thought that he would be a little nervous sitting over there, and he's just natural.
Yeah, you did good.
He did really well,
Mm-hmm.
and I was surprised. But he said, "Yeah, no, I've given presentations."
Yeah.
He was kind of laid back about it.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody that has the calling of the Lord to the level that ministers do, and I'm wondering how many of the mega pastors, that's up in front of 20,000, what about those guys? Do they get nervous about that stuff? Do they go through issues? Do they have to pray before? I mean, like, have to pray to have the strength to walk up there?
Let me say this. I don't think, just from my experience and what I do in this, I don't think it's a nervousness about the act itself. It's about what, like, for example, for me, it's the backlash I know that I'm going to get on certain things. It's a lot of pressure, right? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to win souls to God,
Mm-hmm.
and your expectations are most likely not going to be met week in and week out. And so you're dealing with, am I even doing this? And not to mention, I have a team that I have to feel like I'm trying to make happy and make sure that everybody's okay, and make sure that I'm doing the right thing, because everybody else suffers for it if I'm not. Does that make sense? So it's like,
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't have a whole cast of prima donnas.
right. Yeah.
We're all in this together.
No,
we
I know,
are
I know.
all pushing to
I
go
know.
that direction.
Sometimes it's undue pressure. It's not necessary, but it's stuff that you put on yourself for no reason. But yeah, man, it's just, there's a lot of elements that go into it that maybe even I don't even sit down and think about what all goes into this. But there's a lot of pressure, and most of it, I mean, the easy part is sitting down here and talking on this mic. That's the
Well,
easy
when we
part.
first started doing this, and you would bring up numbers that I didn't want to think about. I don't want to think about a million people talking or hearing me or listening to me or seeing me or any of that, because,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not handsome enough to deal with this.
Yeah. Well, most likely be on audio anyway. Well, I mean, we might get up to 1 million on video, but we're still a long ways away
my
from that.
orientation skills aren't that great either.
Yeah, we're still a long ways away from that. We're still rookies in this, essentially, in this Ballville. I mean, we've been blessed with some social media presence. Don't get me wrong, but,
That's amazing.
but we're still a long ways away.
Well, it's
from
just
getting
proof
there.
that God can use anyone who is willing to step forward.
Yeah,
And by the way, Mark, we miss you.
yeah. Mark's on vacation. He's like doing fun stuff.
Yeah, man, he's out on a bike ride.
It's so silly. Why would you go do fun stuff in the place of doing the podcast? It's crazy.
I know.
Do I ever get to take a break?
No.
Oh, that's what's cool, is like, I could take a break and someone could fill in. Seriously, that could happen. Mark could do it.
You see this look on my face.
It could happen. No, I was thinking about that. Like, just
Why?
because. No, I was thinking about that because, like, I was thinking, okay, if I had to miss, we would have to just shoot 2 podcasts in a row or something to
Yeah.
get ready for me missing.
I can see
or
us
something.
doing that. Yes.
But like, I could miss. I could miss. Yeah, I could miss for sure. And just Mark set in or something. I mean, that's all you guys need.
All right.
Who's going to switch the cameras?
Yeah. She's can't miss, and you won't miss without her missing. So We can't train her. She won't do it.
Well, I could miss, but then Angela couldn't. Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to have to do 2 in a row.
Useless. Useless thought.
We're going to have to do 2 in a row.
We're
Okay.
not- we're not
at
doing that.
2:03. We're at 2:03. Okay. She's ready. I'm going to ask her how to, she must be from somewhere, a different country, because it says Michaela Nikolenko. So I'm going to ask her what that means. I'm so sorry if that's disrespectful. I don't know how to spell it. I'm going to pronounce it good when you tell me, though. But she's a former New Ager. I know she struggled with the way she lived her life. Like, I know she's posted a couple videos where she has like shown pictures of her previous. Yeah.
Nikolenko.
But she used to like deal with promiscuity. I mean, she used to show pictures of, and she has made a drastic change, and she's just serving the Lord, living her life for the Lord. And then, but she has a really cool story, and she has like a testimony podcast and stuff. But we'll ask her about all that stuff. So, let's get there. Let's get her on, Michaela.
Hello.
There she is.
Hey guys.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad at all. Okay. So I just tried to pronounce your name, and I don't think I did it right.
Nikolenko.
Okay. Now that definitely wasn't right.
Yeah, Nikolenko. That's correct.
Wow. Larry, don't roll your eyes like you just assumed it was right.
I said it was right.
Okay.
You know, it's Ukrainian, so I'll give you guys a break. I couldn't pronounce it at first when I first met my husband either, so I totally get it.
Oh, so you're not foreign. Are you American and your husband's Ukrainian?
Yes, I'm very, very American. I'm from Indiana. And my husband, yes, his whole family's from Ukraine. So I got the cool, funky last name.
Ah, that is cool. Yeah, my sister's last name is from Puerto Rico. It's Matellana. So it's super long too.
Yeah, I'm not trying
that
that
was
word.
hard too.
She went from Lee to that, Lee to that.
Yep, I went from Steiner to Nicholas. Yep.
Steiner as
And
in like the Steiner brothers?
Oh, good Lord. She's not going to know who the Steiner brothers are.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know who they are.
That's professional wrestling. Why would she know that, Larry? Why would she know that?
Because she's from Indiana. They're from Michigan. They were all over that area.
Good Lord. I don't even know why we do this sometime, Michaela. I don't even know why we do this sometimes.
Help me with your guys' names as well. It's Larry and...
So we this is how the show goes.
That's the important one. Yes,
I skipped a little bit of how we don't do the normally do the show. So I'm going to go around the room and introduce everybody here in just a second, and then towards the end of the show, what we do is we just have a free conversation, open talk, and I'm going to interview you about your testimony and stuff like that. And then at the end of the show, we're all going to go around the room and we're going to say something in closing, and then because you're our guest, you're going to get the final say at the end. So that's what we normally do with the people who don't believe in God, and so we just keep that structure for even the people that do believe in God. Because I know you're a follower of Christ. So, okay, we're gonna go in the room. We have Mark's not here today, unfortunately. He's our executive producer. He's on vacation doing fun stuff. This is my wife Angela.
Hello.
Hi.
And then this is my wonderful co-host Larry.
How are you doing today?
Oh.
And then,
awesome.
And then I'm Zach. I'm the tan.
Okay, wait a minute.
Glowing.
Yeah, you do glow a little bit because you got no body here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He started lifting weights, so he shaves his arms now. I don't get it.
I shave. Well, we won't go there. It's whatever, but it's fine.
Like the whole arm?
Yeah, I shave everything. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, my husband shaves his armpits, and that was my first hearing that, guys do that, but I kind of did it.
Yeah, I shaved my armpit. I've been shaving my armpits for years.
What?
Years, yeah.
He said it helps him to not, accumulate sweat.
Yes.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Okay,
At
I
60
don't get
years
it.
old, Larry, you got to shave your armpits. and
I'm
see
not
how it
shaving my
goes.
armpits. No,
I'll do it for you.
I have to trim the bush a little bit, but I mean, because
What'd you just say?
trim my bush up underneath my
Oh,
arm.
okay, your armpits. Jesus, dude. I
Oh
thought
my
you
gosh.
Your mind's wrong, dude. That's
Dude.
not even cool.
I thought you went there. I was like, I'm gonna quit right now. We have an
But
everyday
how do you
rating.
keep that from not acting like Velcro on a shirt?
Oh, so honestly, I used to trim it with like a trimmer, and it would do that. That's why I started shaving it all the way. That's what helps that. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I got one razor bump or one razor cut, and I would be out for life. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
When you have to wear deodorant all the time, that's probably something you
I
don't
do wear
right?
deodorant all the time.
Yeah, and you also wear hairspray, so that's a problem
Yes.
too. So
I do the spray on.
that's crazy, dude.
I just stand there.
We need Mark to keep us on track. That's what we need.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
I've
Hey,
learned so much about you guys already.
She has gotten more out of us in 36 episodes in 5 minutes.
There you go. I am actually excited to actually have this conversation with you. I have run across a few of your TikTok clips.
Yep.
And I promise, if it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. And I thought, I really need to send her an invite so that she'll reach out to Zach. And I went, yeah, no, I'll just hold off and I'll talk to Zach about it. And then he told me that you were coming on today, and I'm blown away. I have actually enjoyed your clips. So that's interesting, considering I am the non-technological advanced person in this room.
Okay.
I have a smartphone that has a stupid operator.
Well, I really appreciate that, and that just says to me that God was kind of speaking the same thing to you guys. So I'm very honored to be here as well.
I feel like I can't hardly say this because of how out there our show is. The Help My Unbelief podcast is kind of it's different than your normal Christian podcast. But I feel like I can say your podcast is in a similar lane as mine as well, and that's kind of rare.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, I definitely couldn't take it to the level that you guys do. Like, I realize I'm really good at talking to people who kind of have the same story or similar story as I do. But navigating people with different beliefs, that's such a touchier sort of domain. And I don't, like you said in one of your recent reels, like nobody else is doing that. So,
yeah,
I love what you guys are doing as well.
That's why I said that. Is because I felt like I get hate from Christians, right? And I'm used to that.
Or you get
I'm
hate
used
from
to that
non-Christians
by
too.
Well, now that I started getting that, and that really bugged me. That's why I put out that statement, was because it's like, hey, listen, no other Christian is going out here and doing the things that we're doing and putting ourselves. Michaela, I'm sorry. We literally had to now listen, God did it because our equipment failed, but we literally came in here last week and shot this most recent week's podcast, and we did not handle it very well. And luckily, this has never happened in the 36 weeks that we've been doing this. This has never happened, but we lost both the recording and the backup recording to that show.
Wow.
And it was literally the worst we had ever. We weren't rude to him or anything, but we just didn't do what Help My Unbelief does. We did not interview him the way that we went into arguing with him and doing that. And it was like God was like, nope, this is not how my show is going to go. His show.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
intervention.
and so we had to end up coming back up here on a Friday evening and reshooting that show over again. And it was like God giving us a second opportunity to do what he has called us to do.
Well, he also brought in a puzzle piece that we needed to help complete that by bringing in a new Christian that had a almost mirror image of the young man that we were interviewing.
Yeah, we were interviewing.
Only this kid, and I can say kid because everybody has one, but this one's 33, and he's already been where that 19-year-old was, and has seen that side of where that takes you, and then stepped in and found the Lord about 4 months ago here at this church.
Yep.
And so it was just amazing.
Yep. It truly makes you realize how little we have to do with this whole thing.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
We definitely submit the control to God each time we do the podcast, but it is amazing when we get off track. God has this wonderful way of bringing it back.
Yep.
Wow. And that takes the pressure off of any of us to have to perform or be good enough or any of those things. Just remembering, that it is in his hands, and he will destroy the clips if it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
Amen.
So before I forget, I want you to plug your show. You're from the Raised and Redeemed podcast, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. A big part of my testimony is just like how much God redeemed like every part of my life. And so I had started a YouTube channel a few years back when I first was getting into the New Age. And it started as a yoga channel, actually. And on here, I was sharing all these kind of New Age teachings, yoga practices, meditations. Then I started outright, like, blatantly speaking against the church and the patriarchy and, like, all these things. So that was my YouTube channel for a couple of years. And it really, like, God did not let that thing grow. Like, as much as I worked on it, as consistent as I was, as hard as I, worked on it, it just was not growing.
Right.
So time goes on and, I find the Lord, and I ended up taking about a year break of, making content or doing anything. I was just really trying to figure out God, for myself. And next thing I know, he's like placing these messages on my heart again to start making content. So I started making YouTube videos again. And I'd always wanted to start a podcast. I just hadn't really gotten the green light from God yet to sort of go into that domain. And then one day I don't know, I feel like he just gave me like the A-OK, and I started it so messy. I did not even have like a normal podcast intro episode. I just took the audio from one of my YouTube videos and made that episode 1, and I just got going. And over time, I began to realize, like, I really can't do this on my own. Like, I want to have conversations with people and make this bigger than just myself. And so I started having on other people who had just been saved as well to share their testimony. And now I'm 54 episodes later. It's grown into the Raised and Redeemed podcast. Yeah, where it's
how often do you shoot them?
How often do I shoot them?
Yeah.
So I have episodes every week, but I did just take a little break for the summer to kind of
I saw that.
Get more clear about my intention going forward for the next season. And because I didn't do that when I started, I just extracted the audio, let's get going, let's do it. So I really, now that it is starting to grow, I wanted to take a step back and just talk to God about, what is the direction of this thing now that I am seeing it start to pick up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I saw you had taken a break, and I think I saw that video after I asked you, and I was like, God, I hope I'm not interrupting her break, because I know how important those are.
No. Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay.
I was taking a break from publishing and editing and producing all my own stuff. This being on somebody else's podcast is fun.
Listen, if anybody can identify with you, it's me. Like, all the clips you see, I do. All the editing of the show, I do. And it really is, especially if you do video, it's very time consuming.
Oh yeah, so much. Cause there's the YouTube, the podcast, the clips, the reels, the TikToks, all the platforms. Yeah. It's so much.
I honestly, I've thought about, farming out the clips or something, but I just can't afford it yet. It doesn't make sense for me to do that yet, but we'll get there eventually. And we don't really have a big following on our YouTube. It's just I put it out there for those people that wanna watch it,
like me,
instead of listening to it. Yeah, like Larry's one of them. Larry listens to those.
Yes.
Even when I listen to it, I watch it.
After I edit my show, I will never listen to it again. That's how done with it I am.
Yeah, me too. Because you've listened to it numerous times at that point, trying to get it good. So I feel that
I'm done with it.
Yeah, but see, that's the whole thing. All I have to do is talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry, you've got it good.
Yeah, I know. I don't know any of that stuff.
He could
Any
be
of
some
that
like
stuff.
computer guru, and he's pretending dumb just so he doesn't have to do work.
Sweetheart,
Uh-huh.
not you. Not you, my wife. Am I
Oh.
technological savvy?
I believe it was a
No.
joke.
Considering how many times you've had to fix my phone,
I know.
okay?
I have to send in his invoices for his lawnmower company to get paid.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You guys are a team.
It's
Yeah.
taken me forever to figure that thing out.
Yep. I'm like every month he's like, I've got to get paid
Speaking
for
of
these.
the end of the month is coming up.
I know. I got you, buddy. It's okay.
All right.
Um,
I have a question. What's your age, Michaela?
Yeah, I'm 25.
oh, that's a pin clicker.
But she's for the Lord.
You don't have to click your pin because she's a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
What's that mean?
So, what was it, like 5 or 6 episodes ago? We were
Well-
interviewing an unbeliever, and Larry, in the middle of the interview, he asked him how old he was, and he said like 22, and then Larry clicked his pin with.
Well, here's what I found. Okay, and they're gonna beat me up for this, and that's okay because I don't pay attention when you beat me up. I'm not listening.
Yeah, I get it, right?
Yeah. Zach absorbs all of that stuff for me. It is amazing to me, and I have met some extremely intelligent people. Okay, I have. I have also met some people who think they're intelligent, and a lot of the time, it is that group of 25 and under that think they're a whole lot smarter than they are.
Oh yeah.
And part of the problem is that they may have book smart, but they have no experience.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't have book smart, and I've got more experience than I need. Okay.
Yep. I won't disagree with you. It was college that actually, inflated my ego in my head so much, and that's kind of where I, majorly stepped away from the church because I thought I knew everything and got really into, the intellectualism and feminism and all those things. So I feel you. And now I see other, young 20-somethings kind of going through that same sort of rebellion period. And I'm like, you'll grow out of it. Just give it some time.
Do you think we've asked this question on the last 2 podcasts now, I think, and I'm going to ask your opinion on it. Do you think the college experience itself directly contributed to you falling away from the Lord?
Oh yeah, but I went to a very liberal university. So I went to Indiana University, and so there's a lot of liberal feminist teachings that kind of go on there. And so I think depending on the college that you go to, like obviously if somebody goes to, a more conservative Christian university, it's going to be different. But for my experience, going to a Big Ten, more worldly, with the cultural agenda kind of universities, yeah, it definitely was a big part of me stepping away from the Lord.
Well, I could agree. Even I'm not college educated. I got educated by life. At 11 days after I turned 18, I got married for the first time. Not a good suggestion. That shows how stupid I was at 18. Of course, I do have 2 daughters out of that marriage that I love. So, there you go on that. But all in all, like the difference between Indiana University and Berkeley, even in the 60s, Berkeley had the reputation of leading you away from the church, where a lot of the other colleges didn't. A lot of people forget that Harvard and what's the other big one?
Yale? Oxford?
No, there's another one up there. Harvard.
Okay, you said
those
that
were
twice.
based on biblical principles to start with, and now I would be surprised if you could find somebody that would allow the Bible in there.
Yeah.
And it has been the downfall is the education system in itself trying to, and this is what I've heard a lot lately, so you'll have to bear with me, but this critical thinking process. And I got to talking to my wife about this just the other day, and I realized my brother, who we interviewed in episode 5 or 6, is an agnostic. We were raised in the same house by the same parents. But he became agnostic. He went to college. I didn't. And I never doubted there was a God, because the way I was raised, there is no doubt there is a God.
See, Michaela, the reason why I'm saying this, because I feel like I have to eat a little crow, because me and Larry walked into a CPA office, like, I don't know,
You're going to bring that one up again.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 months ago. And there's this girl at the desk, and we started explaining what our podcast was about how we were trying to make a podcast designed for an unbeliever, a person, to where an unbeliever feels comfortable and stuff like that. And she goes, "Oh, that's cool. That because I'm an agnostic." And Larry started saying, "You know why you're agnostic is because college and blah, 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 and all this other stuff." And we got out of there. I said, "Larry, no." One of those where Zach smacks Larry's hands. Larry, no. We don't talk to people. We don't talk to unbelievers like that. That's not good. And then I left there thinking, is college doing this? And I didn't think so. And I told him, I don't think college is converting people away from Christ. And then now the more that we look into it and talk to people, it looks like that might be a huge contributing factor.
Yeah, and the sad thing is it's starting to go into more of the high schools and junior highs, and now even the elementary school, where they are promoting stuff that, oh man, goodness, even the college kids shouldn't be actually reading.
Yeah. Yep. So on the 4th of July, I go to a pretty big church out here in Florida. I go to Christ Fellowship, and so on the 4th of July, our pastor, Pastor Todd, he broke down the fact that, our nation was rooted in God and in biblical principles, because many people make the argument, that the settlers came here and they were trying to get away from God and we're supposed to be free from God here and all these things. But he was breaking it down how God was so integrated into our school systems. The 10 Commandments were taught, all these things where God was just at the root of this. And over time, he broke it down, like in the 60s and the 80s, just the step-by-step process of God being removed from the school systems. Like, oh, now you're not allowed to pray in school anymore. Oh, now you're not allowed to teach the 10 Commandments anymore because it's quote unquote harmful to the students. And so he broke down the statistics too of what the primary concerns of teachers were back when God was still at this, allowed to be taught in school. Their primary concerns was chewing gum, talking out of turn, running in the hallways. He's like, now the primary concern is school shootings, violence, suicide, all of these things. And there's a direct correlation with God being removed from the school systems.
Yeah.
And like you said, it starts even earlier than college now.
I remember whenever I was a kid in school, and I'm quite a bit older than you, Michaela, but I remember when it switched, because I remember we used to pray. We used to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wow.
And then I remember whenever I got into high school, I remember when it changed. I remember the message wasn't anymore, let's take a moment to say our prayers or whatever. It was, let's take a moment to pray, meditate, or engage in other silent activities, where it had switched to become more political to involve everyone, where somebody, it started to get more. That's whenever we started trying to remove God out of there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy that you you lived that and you can recall going through that transition. Yeah.
I remember when it switched. It used to be normal to pray, and then it came to a moment where it wasn't allowed anymore.
When I was in elementary school, you had the morning prayer, and you said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. And then when you went to lunch, you sit, and I'm talking about first, second grade. You sit at the table, and you bowed your head. If you didn't, nobody prayed out loud, basically, but that time was given to pray over your food. Now, I was raised in church, so I lowered my head and I prayed quietly in my mind, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't look up to see if everybody else did. I just assumed everybody did.
Yes.
Yeah. Michaela, I want to get into your testimony before we run out of time. So you, Larry, we interviewed a person that kind of dabbled in New Age before, but you were actually deep in the New Age. And if you were, can you explain to us what that is?
Yeah. What is New Age?
Yeah, New Age is essentially, there's nothing new about it. It's just modern day paganism with a new, fun, sparkly cultural twist on it, because that's what Satan does, right? Like, he doesn't make anything new. He just counterfeits what God already made, and he just finds a way to make it more appealing each generation. So New Age is, it's exactly that, just modern day paganism. So you do a lot of the sort of witchcraft, divination. I guess I could start with my testimony of like what that sort of looked like getting into it, because it was a very slippery slope where one door just kind of opened the next and so on.
Please do. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go back to college, studying all about feminist perspectives on everything and starting to reject the church and the patriarchy and all this stuff. And at the same time, though, I was deeply broken, as most people who get into the New Age are. Like, and everybody, like all humans, we're deeply broken, and we all were designed to seek our Creator. But before you're willing to accept, that that's Jesus, and you have to get rid of your sins, you kind of look for loopholes to do that. So that's basically what I did. So I guess I'll say, as soon as I was done, like, mindlessly coping, because I used to do a lot of partying, drugs, sleeping around, all this stuff. And I realized, like, okay, this clearly isn't going to fill the void. So I did try church. I went to church here and there. But at the same time, yoga came into my awareness. Veganism came into my awareness. Like, all these other kind of ideas started to come into my mind as something that might be able to bring me some relief and heal me. I was going through, like, I had acne, I had emotional wounds, I had all this stuff. So I was looking for healing. So it's crazy because both God and Satan knew that I was seeking, and, God was pursuing me, but so was Satan. And at this point, I was more so willing to buy what Satan was selling me, because I still wanted to live in my sin, right? Like, I wanted God, but I still wanted my sin. So the New Age way felt better to me at that time. So, I tried to heal myself with the yoga. I got really big into that.
I hate to interrupt you, but I've always wondered this, and I've never looked into it myself, but I always hear that yoga is evil, and there's a lot of dark spirits connected to it. Can you explain why?
Well, it is rooted in Hinduism. So, I don't think stretching itself is bad. So I still do a lot of the similar sort of stretches because, God gave us stretching, but yoga is the Hindu rooted version. And so, when you get into those communities a little bit deeper, you kind of see what happens. Because when I went to my yoga teacher training, that's where, I started meeting witches and people who had tarot cards. And there's an ideology that comes with yoga, if that makes sense. And that's all connected into the New Age. The people that are telling you namaste and talking about the universe, it comes with a community of people, and they sort of share a similar ideology, whether they realize it's rooted in Hinduism or not, because there's, of course, an American twist on it now.
So it's not necessarily the movements then. It's the community and what goes on behind it, what drives it.
Yeah, some people make the argument that certain poses are representative of, different worship poses to certain Hindu gods and goddesses, aka demons. But I don't know. I never looked into it that deeply. I can just tell by my life experience of where getting into yoga led me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know this. I know I have the Holy Spirit living inside me, and I know if I started doing something that God didn't want me to do, I know that He would convict me of it.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yeah.
So
what I'm seeing is it's pretty basically just the old age thing of rebranding or repackaging. If I can repackage this, it'll draw new buyers to it.
Yes.
But yet once you start removing the layers of the onion, if you can understand that, you find out that at the core it is still just Satan.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Okay. And so,
Yeah.
will you continue? Go ahead and continue with your testimony, though. So you were practicing in this New Age, and you started to go to church a little bit. You were trying to fill the void. Then what was going on?
Yeah. So then I met a guy and decided I was going to move to Arizona, and there ended up being. So this is how I got into my yoga teacher training, because there's this super spiritual school that was right down the road from where we lived in Arizona. And I remember at this point, I started reading books like You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero and all these sort of self-help books where they talk about the universe has your back. And there was Gabby Bernstein, just all these, new age guru teachers and self-help books. So at this point, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the universe led me to exactly this apartment. I'm supposed to go to this super spiritual school. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I guess I'll start with yoga since I have a background in yoga.
Yeah.
So I started going to this school. And like I said, that's where tarot cards were around me for the first time. And, I just kind of thought they were sparkly, pretty. I thought, okay, this is a cool way to connect with the spirit world. Like, I'll try it. And the next thing I know, like I said, there's like witches in my class, and they're inviting me to their healing circles. So then I start going to these like weird houses where they're like ran by these, older witches and they have like all the gods and goddesses pictured on the walls, the icons, and
They're covens.
and you sit and 100%. And they don't hide the fact that it's a coven either. They'll say it, like they call themselves witches and they're proud of that, but they just don't get that what they're connecting with is the demonic. They think that they're connecting with, sort of neutral spirituality.
That's the one thing I've noticed, that I haven't had a witch on in a while. I don't know. I haven't been able to find one to come on, but that's one thing I've noticed is the consistent theme is that, that there are such thing as bad spirits, but most of them are neutral. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they think. And everything just kind of is like, and some people in the New Age do believe that there are bad spirits, but they believe that if you let them in, you just didn't do the right like ritual to protect yourself.
Yeah. Yep. You didn't protect yourself good enough.
Yeah, we've heard that over and over.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Me too. I get a lot of people comment on my stuff on social media, so I know the arguments, but I lived it, so I have the experience to sort of speak on that and where this led me. And so, they call it like they're white witches. Like white witches are, you're trying to do this for the good of yourself, for the good of humanity. Like you're trying to heal with each other. Like all the rituals that you're doing, between the mixing of herbs and the burning of different incense and, putting your blood on the earth and like all these things are meant to heal you. Yeah. I got into even weirder stuff than this because like I said, one door opens the next. And there was this lady who was the main teacher at my yoga teacher training. And I was just enthralled by her because at that point I was a super broken, insecure, acne face girl who, I was abused as a child. I didn't know my worth or anything. So then when I see this woman who comes in and she's like, you are a goddess, I am a goddess. And she just had this like powerful energy. I was like, I want to be like her.
Yeah.
So I started following her to all of her different, workshops and weekend retreats. And it got deeper and darker. I don't know if you guys have heard of ISTA.
No, what is that?
So it stands for International School of Temple Arts or something like this, but it's basically like sex magic. And Aleister Crowley, the founder of Satanism, he used to practice this as well. I didn't know that.
So I don't think this is what you're talking about, but there was on TikTok recently, I saw an ad for a like satanic museum or something. And they're like, if you want to explore satanic roots, come visit this beautiful museum. And it's just like a normal, like tourist commercial that was like, and it was,
Okay.
but it was satanic. They were like promoting
Yeah.
Satanism. Just some normal looking dude.
Just making it normal now.
Yeah, normal looking dude
Yeah.
that had like a comb over and a bow tie and was talking
Yep.
about, well, if you want to, you know, how you were saying, next time you're in New York, stop by the Smithsonian or whatever. Like that's what they were
Oh
doing.
my God.
And you honestly remembered that the guy doing the commercial had a comb over.
Okay, so let me explain something. I don't remember exactly what the dude looked like, but I'm trying to paint a picture that he was very normal looking, you know?
Yeah.
Comb over is normal.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think it's what you're talking about, but like it was an organization that runs these things or something. But okay, go ahead. You were talking about ISTA though.
Yeah, so you begin to idolize this particular leader, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. She was my guru, and I loved her. Like I was doing everything she was saying. But to kind of note on the Satanism real quick, I even got to the point in my beliefs with this where, like, New Agers a lot of times will sympathize with Satan, and you come up with these different, like, there's these different Gnostic teachings that, you know, he was the son that was not good enough, that he got rejected from heaven. And I got to the point where I even started to think that, you know, Satan was just misunderstood and he was actually a good guy. And oh my gosh, like I was so deceived in all these teachings. But
Hold on.
to go back to the
Hold on, I'm so sorry. I'm on the International School of Temple Arts website right now, and I've got to tell you this. So they have these different packages that you can select. And it has, like right here, there's ISTA trainings. And it's showing right here.
Yeah.
Level 1, you can have a spiritual, sexual, shamanic experience. If you are ready to transform your life, this experiential 7 or 8 day training is for you. Level 1 SSS sex focuses on allowing you through clear consciousness the integration of all aspects of being mind, body, sexuality, emotions, and spirit. And you can go all the way up to the ISTA level 2 and then ISTA PT, which is you can be a trainer in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good grief.
So thank you for reading that. I'm glad I got the school name right, because I was like, as I was saying it, I'm like, it's been a while, but I think that's what it's called. That's 100% the right one.
Yeah. And it has like, they have on the website, it has, you also have a docile over the International Safe Transit Association. You have that. That's the normal one. No, but then this website, it's and it has, I mean, they have pagan symbols on their wrists and everything. And,
naked women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, basically whatever I'm doing, I'm all in. So, you know, when I was in the New Age, I'm fully doing to the max of what I'm going to do. Like, you know, I'm fully going to explore the depths of this thing. So I went all the way, you know, into even teachings like this. And, you know, this started to make me think that, you know, I saw sexuality as something that was sacred and, you know, a healing energy, you know, that you can create things with and you can manifest with this sexual energy and heal yourself with this sexual energy. And it was the same kind of covens. Like if you see on those images, it's a bunch of naked people coming together and you basically share about your traumas and you like do weird things together. And, you know, it's like, it got really creepy. And I was pretty much, this leader, I was her second in command, where like I would help her do the videography for everything. I was on her website as like one of the instructors. It got really dark. And because this was all sort of being desensitized for me, this is what ended up leading me back into the strip club again, because I was like, oh, this is just a part of healing myself, and taking my power back. You know, that whole like, pretty much all these like radical liberal movements of you got to take your power back. Like this was me, at that point with the feminist sort of ideology. So I was like, I'm going to go back into the club, because I had done it when I was 18 and I was lost in drugs and parties. But now as I think 21, 20, I was 20, somewhere around my very early 20s, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back into the clubs, but this time it's going to be a part of healing myself, because now I have this sort of spiritual belief system that aligned with that.
Yeah. Wow.
So basically you lied to yourself.
Yeah. Yes. And, you know, I told myself because it was for healing, I could go in and I could be sober and, and dance and do this sort of stuff. Um, and it would be a way to teach me confidence and like how to be the goddess and all these things. But because I was lying to myself, it didn't take long before I was doing drugs and drinking all the time again. Because you have to numb and cope with the sort of things like when you're selling your soul at such a deep level. That's why most people in the adult entertainment industry, you know, are always strung out on drugs or alcohol, because that's the only way you can like sort of live with yourself is to be numb to what you're doing.
So I want to ask you this. So looking back, or maybe even at the time, I want you to name, tell us one of the darkest thing that you ever saw where you're like, oh, wow, this isn't what I thought it was. This is actually demonic. Do you remember one specific thing that pops out in your head?
Oh, yeah. And I love that you asked that question, because that's really the climatic part of my testimony, was seeing the demonic. It took me seeing the demonic to realize it was real and, you know, that I needed Jesus. So just to kind of give a little like prelude to that, I had done lots of psychedelics and seen lots of sort of weird spiritual chaotic entities before, but I was never afraid of them. I just thought, you know, this is like a restless, weird spirit. But it wasn't scary enough to really shake me. So I'd seen stuff, like I said, when I was under the influence of psychedelics and different things like this. So when I was at the club, I ended up meeting this man, and he claimed to be a Christian man, but he was definitely a backslidden Christian because he was married and coming into the club, obviously.
Right.
So we started a whole relationship, and this was like the ultimate toxic relationship in my life. But because I grew up, you know, experiencing abuse and all these things, I kind of equated that chaos to being love. I'm like, oh, the highs and lows, like this is what love is supposed to be like this makes me feel alive, all these things. And I also was of the spiritual belief system that I need to take my power back and all these things. So I was just living very selfishly for myself. And I didn't really care, you know, that he was married. And I believed sort of what he said, too, that they were separated because I had been engaged and I knew I was leaving that relationship. So I kind of believed him, too, when he said that, you know, they were married but separated. I was like, right, like it happens, whatever. So we carried on with our relationship for like 8 months. And because he was a Christian, even though he was backslidden, we had lots of debates about spirituality versus Christianity. Well, not that Christianity can't be spiritual, but, you know, my belief system versus his. And he would always tell me, you know, that he needed Jesus or else he'd be way worse. He's like, you know, like I'm pretty bad now, but if I didn't have Jesus, it'd be way worse. And I sort of understood his belief system. And I kind of started to read the Bible again, but this time just for him, because I was like, okay, I want to like give it a chance. I give every other religion a chance. I read all the other religious books. I might as well read the Bible from time to time too. And God started to speak to me about sexual sin. That was one of the first things he started to speak to me about that made me just feel so convicted, was the sexual sin. And the second part was the fact that he would be coming again, like he would return and there would be judgment and he was coming back soon. And I just like started to believe these things in my core. As much as I rejected Christianity, it felt so real to me.
Oh, wow.
But I still wasn't willing.
So you were kind of, so you were rejecting Christianity, but he had revealed those like two concepts to you, and you hung on to those two.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, those were the first sort of things that began to, I don't know, I couldn't explain it. It was a very supernatural thing that I just like.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's cool, is because it's like God was easing you into your purpose. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't overload. He couldn't give you more than, you know, that when he says he's not going to give you more than he can handle. I think that's what that kind of means in that situation, was that like he was easing you into your purpose. You weren't ready to understand all the concepts. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And I wasn't ready to give my life yet at that point either. I wasn't ready to fully surrender.
Right.
But I carried on this relationship with this man. We were in a relationship for like 8 months. And every time we met up, we would, book a hotel, like almost down by the border of Mexico. We were cause, that's just where we were for what he did for work. And this one day we were completely sober. And this is leading up to the most scary thing I'd ever seen. And I have to preface it with saying I was completely sober because that's what really made this as impactful as it was for me. So we had been talking a lot about, purpose and things like this. And we were going to take our relationship to the next level. And we were talking about getting a house and, me leaving the strip club and settling down and stuff like this. And I was, somewhat excited about that. We went out for dinner, came back, and we're standing in the hotel room. And I began to just feel like very insecure and anxious. It was almost like a spirit of fear, like just entered the room, and I could feel it. But at that point, I didn't know. I thought I was just being insecure and weird because maybe I had a breakout or something. That's how deep I saw it at that time.
Yeah.
And he was like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on with you? And I was like, I don't know. I just feel off. And so he dimmed the lights way down, and he comes over to me, and he's like sitting on the bed looking at me. And he's just like, trying to comfort me, tell me it's okay, I'm beautiful, like all these things. And we're just sitting there looking at each other. And as I'm looking at him, his face begins to morph. And his eyes are going way out past his head and then back in and then up and down. And I'm looking at him, and I just don't even know, I don't even know what's going on. I'm like petrified at this point. I can't even speak words. And then he gets a little closer to me, and I see his nose turn into a snout and his eyes turn into a gorilla, and his face just starts morphing into these deeper, darker, entities.
Whoa.
And I look at him. Yeah. And all I could say is I see a beast in you. This is all I could gather myself to say. And he just said, I know, I see the same in you.
What?
And I don't know. Yeah. And so I don't know, if he really did, if it was mirroring itself back to him, or if this was like a defense mechanism. I don't know what it was, but he grabs my hands and he gets up on his knees and he squeezes his eyes shut and he just starts breathing really, really hard. And I can tell this is his battle. This is his battle. And he always used to tell me, because I was still, a party girl and all these things. And he would always tell me, you've awoken my demons. You've brought this big demon back that hasn't been awoken in a long time. He would tell me stuff like this because of the stuff I was doing, but I never put two and two together that, the fact that he really was in bondage to this demon that was living through him via his sin. Oh my gosh. So he's sitting here battling this demon, breathing so hard. And I'm looking up at him, just squeezing his hands, watching him go through this. And, as a Christian looking back to him, you'd think he'd call out to Jesus or something, but no, he's fighting this on his own. And the demon begins to cast this illusion, this, when you see in the spirit, it's this translucent sort of layer. And I saw this layer over his face, and it looked like he was being strangled. I saw his face turning purple. I saw his eyes bulging out of his head. But I knew it wasn't really happening to his flesh. I knew this was happening in the spirit. And at the same time, I'm feeling myself going back to how God first began to speak to me about sexual sin. I'm feeling all my womanly areas feel unsafe, very unsafe, this demon wanted me for those things. Oh my gosh.
Does this telling this make you uncomfortable? It takes you back to the moment that you felt all this stuff, you saw all this stuff?
You know what? I can tell it pretty emotionless at this point because I've told my story so much, which, makes me worry sometimes. I'm I hope I can still tell it with the impact because I've truly healed a lot from this happening because I have shared my testimony so much. So no, I'm not uncomfortable sharing it.
Okay. I could just sense I'm just man, I have so many opinions on this already. So I want you to finish it so I can tell you, but yeah, go ahead.
He's chomping at the bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. Cause I had so many interpretations after this happened. So basically the spirit kind of lets up from the room and we're just out of breath looking at each other. What the heck was that? What's going on? And hours go by, just hours, hours, hours. It's going on like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We can't sleep because obviously like the craziest thing that's ever happened to either of us just happened. And I asked him, I'm like, can you please pray for us? Because I just feel so unsafe. Like, I just feel like it's in the room. You're a Christian, you pray. And so he prays, and I still feel this demon in the room. Like, I still feel it even after he prayed. And I remember when I was young having these like demonic sleep paralysis encounters where demons would like communicate with me telepathically. And this started to happen where this demon that was still present told me, you're not going to pray. Who are you to pray? You're not even a Christian. You blaspheme Jesus all the time. Like, why would you pray? And just the louder this voice got, the more aggressive it got, I knew that I had to pray. As much as like, I was not a Christian. I didn't even believe in Jesus at that point. I knew I had to pray. So literally with just tears streaming down my face, I was so humbled in that moment. I cried out to Jesus and I said, please, Jesus, just come into this room. Please protect us, allow us to go to sleep. And so, I ended up finding enough peace to at least fall asleep that night. And after that, we woke up the next day, and then I was on a journey of trying to figure out, how did I let this demon in? Because if demons are essentially, fallen angels, and angels are messengers, what does this mean? And what am I supposed to do? And, I still wasn't willing to surrender my life to Jesus yet, but this got me into looking into all the other religions. Like, how do they protect themselves from darkness, from evil? So I don't know if you want to do your reflection and then I can share next, or if you want me to.
I have a question first.
Yeah.
What happened to that guy? Do you know?
Yeah. So what happened was, I go home and I'm petrified. I realize I let the demonic in. So I go to the Mormon church. I'm seeking help. I go to the Catholic church. I'm seeking help. I'm looking on, I'm researching on the internet what all the, what Buddhists, what Hindus, what everybody does to protect themselves from evil spirits. And at that same time, I also knew one Christian. Going back to my yoga teacher training, there was one Christian in the whole training. And her name was Tammy, and I reached out to her and I told her what I had just seen. And she was like, please come to church with me. And so, I was like, okay, like I said, I was giving everything else a chance. Why not give Christianity a chance too? Why not give Jesus a chance too? So I started going to church with my friend Tammy. And I remember just looking around at the church and seeing these families standing there together. And I was like, I want this. And I want him to be with his family. I don't want to tear apart a family. Like, this moral compass just came into my heart that I'd never had before, where I just, it was the Lord. And I knew I had to let this guy go, but it was so hard. And so I also started going to women's groups and freedom classes. And the more I confessed what happened, the more these women were like pouring into me and telling me, he's not the God of confusion. He's not going to send a married man into your life. This man may have been sent by something spiritual, but it was not God that sent him to you. And so my next step with this man was abstinence. I was like, okay, so let's take the sin out of our relationship. And as far as I saw, it was just, the sexual sin. So the moment we got abstinent, his true colors began to reveal themselves.
Yep.
And I began to see, it might have been love for me, but it was just lust for him. And he really was in bondage to that demon and, with me for sex, and because of his own sin and his own perversion and lust. And so the moment I took sex out, this man basically vanished. Like, out of thin air, this man vanished. And I just knew, because at the same time I was praying to God, your will be done. Like, I don't understand any of this. I don't understand what sin even is. I started to understand that, sin is taking yourself out of the presence of God. And so this is why God warns not to do certain things in the Bible, is because he wants to keep us protected and in his presence. And so I began to understand all of this, and I was like, okay, just take anything out that isn't of you. And as I was praying that, this man vanished too.
Wow. So he's gone. You don't know what happened to him?
Well, I told him to go back to his family. So.
Right, yeah. Okay. So I wanted to say this because through my own battles and stuff like that, I've got two things to say. Through my own battles currently, because I'm still a fairly rather young practicing Christian, right? I wouldn't say I'm a well-seasoned Christian. I mean, I've been through enough battles to say I'm seasoned somewhat, but but I feel like God gave you a vision of what the spiritual world looks like going on right now, maybe even in this room. He gave you a physical representation of that because I believe that there's a spiritual war going on all the time, especially for people like me and you, because I'm sure you feel the pressure of ministry as well with what you do. It's a different beast, that's for sure. And so I'm sure he gave you a physical, real life, living, breathing representation of what's going on in the spiritual world. And then you said another thing that hit with me was the fact that you were, during this moment, you were sitting there you were just looking for a way out, and you thought this guy would pray to Jesus to get to stop this crazy stuff from happening. But here's the problem. He knew what he needed to do to get that to stop, but he didn't do it because he had made friends with that beast that you were seeing.
Oh, yeah.
He knew exactly who that beast was, and he didn't call Jesus because he didn't want Jesus to get rid of his friend.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
And his beast was friends with my beast.
Yep. They were
I was
good
not
friends.
innocent, I had my own demons that attracted his demons.
Yeah. And so how did it take time for you to get rid of your demons, or was it something that was an instantaneous process? What was the next things that happened?
Yeah. So after that, I went home and I was done. Like, I was so just done. I threw away all my books about, being a psychic and Gnostic teachings and astrology. I was like, I don't want none of it. So I had just trash bags of stuff. My whole apartment was this stuff, and so I threw it all away. And I don't know, I just went into such a time with the Lord of because I didn't even know exactly. I hadn't really read the Bible much. So I was like, okay, you tell me what's wrong. Like, you tell me what I can't do. I was reading the Bible and gaining that education at the same time, but I knew there was so much I didn't know. And so I'd really just trusted what he convicted me to get rid of. And I knew what those major things were. So it was mainly what I did, I don't know if it got rid of all the demons right away, but I closed every open portal that I was actively opening, with the drugs, with the drinking, with the sex, the partying, with the divination. I just shut down every portal. And then after that, I just started, really crying out and trying to get closer to God and having faith that the closer I got to him and the more his spirit filled me, that these demons would just sort of naturally phase out of my life.
Wow.
Did you start attending church anywhere?
Yep. Oh yeah. I was in the church 3 to 4 days a week because I lived by myself. It was just me and my dog in my apartment because I had left the guy I was engaged to, got my own apartment. And I was just so shook, and there was so much, I was just hungry for God after experiencing that. So I was in the church 3 to 4 days a week. I was doing all the groups, like I said, the freedom group, the women's studies, going on Sundays. I started going to the adult children of alcoholics group. I was there and I was hungry. And I knew I needed him.
Have you ever, since this happened, have you ever had a temptation to go back, or even a moment where you're like, man, I missed this a little bit?
Yeah, that's a very real question. And I will say yes, because it was such a quick 180 for me that I didn't really, I just changed right away. It wasn't sort of a gradual process to, emotionally process such a big change all at once.
Yeah.
So I backslid. I backslid a little bit when it was maybe 6 months later. I had an old friend from college move to Arizona, and, all we used to do when we went to college together was drink and smoke and go out and club and party. So she moved there, and I started doing these things with her a little bit, even though at the start I was like, I had these firm boundaries, like this, I won't do this. Like, I'll go out with you, but I won't drink, I won't smoke. Next thing I knew, I was drinking here and there, I was smoking here and there.
Yep.
But the difference was this time was that I had the Holy Spirit now. So now I had a conviction that what I was doing was wrong.
Wasn't as fun.
And it was not fun. All the joy of even doing this thing wasn't even there anymore.
Yep.
So I was like, there's no point in doing it because now I just feel miserable and, I'm sad at myself.
Yep.
And honestly, like the high I used to get from doing these things, it was gone. Like I wasn't even able to enjoy a high from doing these things anymore. It's like God took away the pleasure of that to help me in getting rid of it from my life. But then it's definitely it's still an active battle that I still have to fight. And now I'm married. I met a man and God is just so good too, because the man that I married, he's never dabbled in any drugs, any alcohol, anything that I did. And so he keeps me, on the straight and narrow, because there's definitely been times that I've been like, oh, maybe I can, drink wine time to time. And I've sort of walked that out a little bit and gotten to see that, okay, so I can't casually drink wine because this leads to me wanting another and another, and I want to get drunk. Like if I'm drinking, I want to get drunk. And that's what led to a lot of the sexual sin that I used to be involved with. So now I'm very cautious about protecting my triggers, even though, it's not easy. And sometimes temptation does still arise. And so I do have to I'm learning to cry out to God instead of doing the thing that my flesh is begging me to do. Instead, I get on my knees and I pray and I cry out to God and I confess to my husband. I'm honest online as much as I can be, because I find that gives me accountability and a bit of a support system. And, I have my online ministry, and I just try to be really real about that stuff too, because it is an active battle. And the more that I bring light to it, the less I feel like it has power over me.
Was that you that I saw that you had this controversial video or something wherever you tell your husband if you were attracted to another man or something? Was that you that would say that?
Yeah. Yes, I had Lindsay, my estes, on my show, and so that was actually her that was saying that. But
okay,
we were having
now
a
I know,
discussion about that.
Yeah, and where she, your co-host that you were interviewing, says that she even goes and tells her husband when she's attracted to another man to not only keep the honesty in the relationship, but it also helps curb, like the Bible verse, confess with your mouth and your sins will be forgiven or whatever, but helps helps her curb that thing, or whatever.
Yep. And my husband and I have the same practice. If I have a dream or anything, I have to tell him and get it out in the air so it doesn't eat me up in the shadows. And in the beginning of our relationship, there were even a few times that I cried to him about still feeling pain about that guy that just hurt me so much. And it sucks that my husband has to go through that. But at the same time, he handles me with so much grace. And the fact that I'm able to talk to him about it, it helps me to heal. And it honestly inspires me to talk about this for other young girls to hear, so that they know, when you're doing these things and one day you get married, you will look that man in his eyes and know that what you did, it doesn't just affect you, it affects him, it affects your future family. This is something you're going to continue to heal from. When you get married, it doesn't all just go away, you have to guard your heart early on.
Okay, so if there was one thing that you could tell a young lady or a young man that was maybe dabbling in New Age, or maybe they're fully in it, or in that spirituality realm, speaking to the universe and stuff like that, if there's one thing that you could tell them to test their beliefs, to show them that Christianity or Christ is the only way, what would you tell them to do? Or would you tell them to pray? Or what is one thing you tell them to do to test what they're believing, or test the spirits that they're talking to?
Yeah, honestly, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is just the fact that Jesus really does want to reveal himself to us. He really does want a relationship with us. And so if you're open like usually people in the new age and open to all these spirits, like you're just desperate for an encounter. You're desperate for an encounter of anything spiritual, godly, heavenly. And so if you, like, I knew how open I was, so I would encourage them to be open to experiencing Jesus as well, and just asking him, you know, if you are really who you say you are, if you are really God, let me experience you. Like, give me a sign or something. Because he did that for me. And I believe that he will do that for others too. You know, when you ask and you genuinely have an open heart posture to receiving that experience of him.
Right. That's good. Okay. We're at 125 now. So let's, we're going to go ahead and go around the room and let everybody say their, cause these generally last a long time. So we're going to go around the room and let everybody say their final say. You don't have anything? Okay. Larry?
Really? I'm surprised, Angela.
Angela's the quiet one.
First off, I am thankful that you came on today and that you shared this. And I tried to get my wife to say something, but she wouldn't. She's sitting over there listening to what you were saying and was just like nodding her head in agreement.
I could hear
every bit of it, because her battles, although not as deep as yours, she had quite a few battles, and the control that some of those things we think are innocent, they aren't. You know, alcohol is not innocent. Drugs are not innocent. Smoking is not innocent. None of that. It is all those little kinks in your armor that you don't expect to have consequences to your actions that are unworldly. Not just like not just like, well, smoking causes cancer. No, it's not that. It's the doors that it opens up and the control that you're giving to those particular demons.
Yes. Yes.
I'm known for reading a verse at the end of this, and I'm going to go back to Ephesians 6. And, you know, Ephesians 6:10, finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of the evil in the heavenly realms. See, we don't think about that so much when we're out there doing it. I didn't think about all the spiritual implications that was there. I do have a question. Were you raised in the church by chance?
That's a good question. So my parents, you know, they were of the type that would call themselves Christians, but they were drug addicts and very abusive and neglectful. So I got to see Christianity as something that was very like hypocritical, and I never got to see Jesus actually like anybody to strive to live out like how Jesus lived his life. So Christianity was very warped in my head.
So they said they were Christians, but they certainly didn't walk it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I've heard that one time in somebody saying something. I said, well, I can't do that to you because I'm a Christian. And they literally looked at me and said, aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought,
Baptists will
what
tell
is
you
your
that.
what is your definition of being a Christian? Your They think because they're, I guess here in America, they're Christian.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't ask for a definition on that because it just did not set well with my spirit. Because we are not all Christians.
No.
Christian is a relationship with Christ and an action that we take. And people should be able to see our fruit, i.e., we walk out. A lot of times our testimony is in our actions and not in our words. And I'm a firm believer in that. If I say one thing and I'm talking out of the, if I'm saying one thing and I'm walking another, such as what you describe your parents as, it doesn't lay the groundwork. And unfortunately, I can say that I was probably part of that. I was raised in the church, but I walked away from it. And
digs a hole. The way she said it there, it sounds like it probably did more to hurt her relationship with God, seeing her parents set a bad example like that than it did to help it,
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking about my kids. What did they see?
Yeah.
I believed in God, but they saw me drinking. And I'm drinking. My goodness, I drank with every one of my son-in-laws and every one of my my daughters, I didn't do drugs with them, but that was part of what I was at that time.
I did meth with my mom when I was 14.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
She gave me meth. She said, "I'd rather you do it with me than anybody else."
So I'm glad my mom.
My daughter's like literally 6 months away from being 14, and it blows my mind that my mom let me do that. Blows my mind. Yeah. I would literally probably, I don't want to say that, but I would drown someone in a shallow pool if they gave my daughter methamphetamine.
Well, I remember going to some of my friends' houses and their moms would let us drink. I was 15, 16 years old, but the thing was that the minute that we walked in, if we said we were going to drink, this particular lady took our keys away and said, "Okay, but you're spending the night. Let's call your mom and say you're staying over."
Great lady. Great lady. Okay, we got to keep this thing rolling. We're at 1:31. Okay, so my turn. So thank you for coming on, first of all. By the way, our testimonies aren't the same, that's for sure, but like the way we are as humans and our upbringing, we're a lot alike. I have a gas pedal and I have a brake, and that's it. That's why I don't drink at all anymore, because if I did, it would be, we gonna stay up. I have a bunch of my friends that's never known me to drink, and I tell them the stories about how I used to drink and be an alcoholic. My wife's seen me in my drinking days, but a bunch of my friends now, because I've been sober for like going on 5 years. And so a lot of them will be like, "Man, you're a really well put together guy. You wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you work out, you do all this stuff." And I'm like, "Bro, you have no clue." And then I had one guy tell me, he was like, "Just drink one with me. Just drink one with me. Just drink a couple with me. It's fine." In fact, we're going to Buffalo Wild Wings, the same guy. I go to Buffalo Wild Wings with him to watch fights. And I never drink. And he's been trying, the last couple of years, he's been trying to get me to drink with him. And I told him, last time I told him, I said, "Tell you what, I'll have a couple drinks with you, but if something happens and I go off the rails, I'm going to need you to be on the phone with me every time I drink until I quit drinking. That means you're going to go out with me every time I drink. You're going to stay out with me the whole time. I'm sure your wife will understand whenever we're up till 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in your garage or in my garage, whichever one we pick, we can alternate. But all these times that I drink, if something goes bad, I'm going to need you to be there, right there with me." And then I've never heard him ask me to drink with him again since then. He's like, "I don't think I want to take that chance," but I still got my hand. I was like, "Come on, shake on it, buddy." But yeah, I have a gas pedal and a brake pedal, and that's about it. So I identify with your story. I tried whenever people, I don't know if you've noticed in my clips and on my podcast and stuff like that, I try to keep a pretty mellow face when people are telling me their stories and when they're telling me what they serve and stuff like that, just because I don't want anybody to think I'm shocked and stuff like that. I'm anxious to see the way I looked in your story, because you kind of blew my hair back a little bit in that one.
I was sitting over here looking at my wife's reaction.
And
she's not on camera, but my wife's reaction was like, "Oh my goodness."
Something tells me I don't think I kept a straight face in this one. My eyes are probably pretty big, at least. I was like, "Whoa." And it's because I think your story also helped me a little bit, because it helped me see into the spiritual world a little bit too. And I think we can all take that, because we walk around and we go into the world and we intermingle with it a lot, right? And
Yep.
the more we intermingle with it, even as Christians, even if we try to remain spiritual, it doesn't matter. You're going to intermingle with the world, and you can become complacent. And coming up in law enforcement, we had a saying that said, complacency kills. And I think complacency also kills in the spiritual world. And that's what we've become, including myself. And then hearing your story today reminds me of how vigilant we all have to be, because you are literally walking by people that are being tormented by evil spirits, and that there's spirits that are wanting to attach themselves to you, and they're out to destroy you constantly, and it's constantly going on, and you always have to remain vigilant of that. Not saying that you have to walk around in fear. You do serve the Most High, the one that you never have to worry about it, because Christ has always got you, and nothing ever will, not a hair on your head will be harmed in that regards. But I think we do have to remember and not get complacent. And that story helped me with that. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to finally have you on. So thank you. And I don't know if you ever want me on your show. I don't know. I think I've pretty much only seen women on there. I don't know if it's just women on your show, but if you ever want me to come on your show, just ask. I'll be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. I do mostly have women, but from time to time, if there's a good story, I definitely will have a man here and there. So I would love to have you as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And the floor's yours. You can say your closing thing. Final thoughts.
Yeah. No, I love that you ended about, on the topic of the spiritual war that's going on, because that's what I feel like God had on my heart to share as well, was just the fact that when I did begin to see that everything was spiritual, this is what helped me to sort of change my ways. Of course, the number one thing being growing in my relationship with Jesus, but the number two thing being, especially in the face of temptation, seeing that, there's two voices always, like the little angel on one shoulder and the demon on the other shoulder. And so when I would feel temptation to do, to live the way I used to live, I began to see, oh no, it's demons that are telling me to do this because they want entry back into my life via this sin. And so, that's something that helps me to continue to stay on the straight and narrow path, and pulling closer to God and learning more about how to hear his voice instead, and do what his voice is telling me to do, because I never want to let demons come in and rule my life again, because I saw where that led me, and it was destruction, and it was pain, and it was chaos.
Amen. Man, what a powerful testimony.
Amen.
Again, thank you for coming on, and stay strong. You ever need anything, just reach out to me. Okay?
Can I share one more verse with her?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. 1 Corinthians 1:18, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world?
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice. Been a while since I've heard that one, that's for sure. It makes
that's
more
a mic
sense.
drop.
Well, it kind of goes back to the discussion that we had about, the colleges.
Yeah.
And even last week's podcast, we kind of touched on that as well. And we, in our flesh, think that we're wise. But when you go back and read Job and the questions that God put to Job about where were you when I hung the stars? Where were you when I built the world? Where were you? I mean, it's we have made God, because Satan puts it in us, we have made God so small we cannot see his vastness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen. Okay, we got to get her out of here. I told her an hour, and I've had her for like hour 20.
Well, I certainly appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
it was great talking to you.
Take care. See you soon. All right,
Bye.
boom.
Man, I just can't believe it that we talked to her. I mean, I really just 2 days ago or yesterday even saw one of her clips again.
Yeah,
and I see them all the time.
You see him because I follow her on Facebook. That's why you saw her stuff. Yeah,
Well,
she's really cool.
I don't follow anybody, but I keep seeing stuff.
Well, we manage the same Facebook page, and I followed her on Facebook. So you see the stuff because I followed her.
Okay.
Right. You get that now?
Yeah, but she comes up on my reels too, on my Facebook page.
Okay. Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I've seen her on there, and I'm like, man, the first couple of times, hey, this is pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, hey, this girl knows what she's talking about. Yeah. Kind of like Indy, when I saw some of the indies back before we met her.
I have a lot of like okay, how do I say this? I'm not going to say any names, but like I have a lot of friends in the Christian influencer realm and stuff like that aren't as spiritual as her, you know what I mean? And I knew she was going to be a little more on the spiritual side of things, which is that's what I connect better with. And like when she's telling that story, I can just see exactly what God's doing through that. He's like legit letting her see the reality, because we tend to think that the spiritual realm is less real than what we're experiencing, when in reality it is more real and more eternal than what we're experiencing here. All this is going to be gone. Everything that you're experiencing right now, everything that you see here in the physical world will be gone. Everything. Not a single molecule that you see sitting here, this extension cord, this tablet, us, our skin, our fingernails, our bones, everything, every molecule that's circulating here, the air, gravity, all of it is gone. It's going to be gone. It's very finite, but what she saw was infinite, and it was not something that we get to see every day, but it's more real than what you're experiencing. And that's why I love hearing stuff like that, because God allowed her to see a little bit into the spiritual world, to see what's actually happening. And that encourages me.
One of the things that brought up in my mind through the movies, I mean, I used to watch a lot of secular movies. I don't really watch much anymore. But the metamorphosis, is that the right word? Metamorphosis, where it's shaken like this and it goes from one form to another. Shapeshifter, I guess, would be another way of saying it. And I could just see that mental picture as she was describing that in front of my face. And I'm looking at my wife and she's going, I've got chills. I've got chills.
Me too. I was like, whoa.
And
she described it so well too. It was very well.
I'm wondering because I firmly believe that everything is there for a reason. And I think that those particular shows and stuff that we thought were harmless then, I'm seeing them as harmful now, because they desynthesize us. I know I don't say that right because my tongue sticks to my plate, but desensitizes us to where we cannot, it no longer matters to us. Like the video games where there's so much death and destruction that a kid today would not be nearly as freaked out if somebody came up and shot somebody in front of him as my age, when even with the Westerns, if they shot the person, they didn't show the blood and the gore. You know what I mean? The person died.
I don't know. I don't know.
But
I think it probably still rocks somebody.
I'm saying with all of the demonology in the movies now, it is so that it can actually come out more so in the physical, and we don't get it because we've been desensitized by Hollywood.
Or it's to mysticize it, like, oh, this is a mystical thing, when in reality it's happening all around you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm trying to create this mystery when it's not a mystery. It's literally happening. And this thing has warned us for centuries, but that's the thing. And I know there's some people on here right now that's listening to us talk about this and rolling our eyes and thinking we're crazy and stuff like this. But either we are or we aren't. Either we are crazy and we're just talking about this stuff when we're spinning our wheels, or what we believe in is more real than what you're seeing here.
Yeah. It is definitely more real than
if what I believe is
what we
true,
realize.
if what I believe is true, then you are far more crazy than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Far more crazy. That you are far more crazier than I am if I'm believing a lie. You're far more crazy.
I do see that there's a lot of connection between what we got going on and what we've allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I connected so well with her, because I think it's going to help me re-engage in my spiritual battle.
So you got a little boost?
Yeah. I feel really good from her. And I got a boost from talking to Darcia. Kind of. I've always been able to. Here's where I got the biggest boost on, because I could tell right there, whenever she was sitting there thinking, why is this Christian not reaching out to God? Because she knew that God was going to be the answer. But here's the deal. So did that guy. That guy knew what the answer was too, but he had made friends with that demon and he didn't want it to go away. It's just like when I came in and I talked to Darcia, and I talked to her about how I'm not conducting myself in a way from a guy that God had delivered him from all these things. I'm not acting as her so. And she's like, okay, well, what do you think's going on? And I'm like, well, I know what the answer is. So does she. She was like, well, just do it. And I'm like, well, yeah. That's the thing. Sometimes we as humans, we know, we've always known what we need to do to stop a situation. You've made friends with your situation. You've made friends with your demons, and you're afraid to let them go. And God's never going to help you. God's never going to bail you out if you don't get rid of your friends first. You've got to get rid of your friends and then fill it with the only friend that you need to have. You got to get rid of them and then fill it. But if you're hanging on to your homies, ain't nothing going to change ever.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things I think that God directed me to do correctly when I first came to him, and my wife had not yet, is that I walked away and I allowed God to prune me from a lot of the stuff that had the influence over me.
Yeah.
The biker world was gone. The bar scene, gone. You know, I couldn't continue that lifestyle. And when I made the decision to be 100% all in for God, I took all that energy that I had for the world and put it in the church and put it in my relationship with God. And God put me around people like Larry Autry and like Bob Fowler and, you know, a couple others that I was able to go see how to witness out in the world in the right way, to where you get that opportunity to talk to people about God.
Especially with Larry Autry, huh?
Oh yeah.
He goes out there, yeah.
Yeah, and it is amazing how that can help you grow when you submit yourself.
Yeah.
Through submission, you get power.
So
it's
you said
weird.
You said a key word there. You said allow.
Mm-hmm.
Some pruning God's going to do without your permission.
Yeah.
But then there's some pruning that you have to allow him. And I'm at one of those crossroads now too.
Yeah, so. It's a difficult process, because we don't want to lose our friends, but I knew where I would be if I still had them.
Mm-hmm. Maybe dead.
Every person that you come across, you either influence them or they influence you. And that's the simple of it.
Yep.
And I think Pastor Gary actually said that on a Wednesday night. You know, you can see the influence that people have on each other in their actions and what they've changed.
Yep.
So I find that comforting in one way, because I do stand guard on what I allow to influence me.
Yeah.
I've allowed you to influence me, because without your influence, I wouldn't be behind this microphone.
Yeah.
In the least bit.
That's part of the
Darcy has
reason.
allowed me to influence her.
Yeah.
Because the changes in her life are what we had to have happen. Was I become rigid in my walk with Christ.
Yeah.
And that makes the biggest difference.
Yep, it sure does. Okay, we're at 1 49, and we should wrap this thing up now. So it's been. I love this episode, man. It was very encouraging. Back to the grindstone next week.
That'll work for me.
So, all right, say your thing.
Jesus loves you, and so do I.
Thank you for listening and watching. We love you. We are out.
I'll take you home.
Thank you so much for listening to the Help My Unbelief podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And more importantly, tune in every Tuesday at 9 a.m. for new episodes.